This is an interview that we will be conducting for our GP team project with the subject of social media and incitement to violence. My name is Shahir Bukhari, and I am joined by my colleague and team project member Omar Aziz. He will be responsible.
Thank you, sir.
He would be responsible for
Welcome.
the technical side of things, wherein he will be recording and taking screenshots, which is required for a document of evidence. With that being done, could you brief us a bit about yourself, what your job is, and how that's relevant to social media?
All right. I am Ismaeel Qasim. I happen to be a political analyst at a mainstream news channel. I've been a host, and I was also privileged enough to be hosting Ramzan transmission as well last year for another news channel, mainstream news channel. So I've got a double master's degree, and alongside that, I've got an M.Phil in communication studies. When it comes to digital media, I'm presently associated with another news channel as a digital news strategist. So that is how I'm linked to the digital world and your project as well.
Brilliant. Well, how do you think social media shapes public opinion?
All right. To begin with, if we go back in history, during the earlier days, there was this medium of radio that was used to transmit information. After that, we went on to TV, national television, from the black and white to the color screens. And there was obviously the very important aspect of the newspaper as well, the print media. Uh, Fast forwarding to the present age, the current era, social media or the digital medium has utmost importance about the question how it influences public opinion. It influences public opinion in more than one way. There is the positive aspect of it and the negative aspect of it, because there is that information inflow that cannot be, it's something that cannot be just controlled. It's information that is coming to you. You are receiving it from every corner. You do not know at times as to who is sending you or sharing you the information, who is the writer of a specific article that you are reading, or who's the actual person behind the account that is reacting to your post or that is interacting to you. So overall, all in all, it's a double-edged sword, I would say. It shapes public opinion in a way that is that has never been done before. We talk about people and their perceptions. So digital world is the medium that is doing that.
Our project mainly regards itself with the negative aspect. And as you said, it is a double-edged sword. And with that being said, in your experience as a political analyst in particular, have you observed social media being used by people in a negative way where it's directly being related to violence? Because the issue that we tackle is of hate speech, which is that social media and is being used as a medium by bad actors to promote violent ideologies and whatnot. But we believe that this should only be flagged if there's a direct correlation with violence. So, have you had an experience of this?
I mean, I won't be the. It's something that has affected every individual, or I can say, it might not be a sweeping statement if I say that every individual in this present date would have been, affected by that in one way or another. When you talk about hate speech, so there are different aspects to it. It cannot be just, streamlined into just one side of it. You take, for example, if you're talking about, you take politics for that matter, you take religion for that matter. There are those actors who would use religion to promote hate speech. For instance, very The most recent incident is happening right now, that there is a smear campaign that is being run against the very honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan. So it's hate speech, it's smear campaign, and it's very dangerous. There is no end to it, and there is no solution for it. It's something that should be condemned, uh, and should be controlled. But sadly, in a world of digital media, when it comes to talking about social media, the information, like I stated before, it cannot be contained. So, in my career, in my aspect as a political analyst, yes, every other day you have to go through it. There are people who would, raise slogans about you, who would make comments about you. There is that so much. There's so much polarization in the society that people are not ready to respect the opposing views. There is that hatred in the masses, and most of it is because of the digital media, because people have, not respected that. There was this thing that we can agree to disagree. It was a very beautiful saying. It's very beautiful, but it's not being followed. For instance, you take one political party, they would use hate speech, not their progress, not their efforts, not their governance, but they would use hate speech. They would use pressure tactics to pressurize the opposition. It can be any party. I'm not naming any party at all. It's because it's the same process for everyone. Once you're in the opposition, this is what your go to thing is. You have to have hate speech in your rallies, in your campaigns, to mobilize the masses. Whereas what should have been the case is that you should have focused on governance. You should have focused on dividing bridges. You should have focused on ending the institutional imbalances, but that is not being done, sadly. So that is a reality. Hate speech is over here, should be condemned, and efforts should be made in place, should be put in place to curtail it or to stop it as much as possible.
That's wonderfully put. But the problem that comes in curtailing hate speech is the gulf between freedom of speech and hate speech, and the difficulties that lie therein in identifying what is what and how you would curtail hate speech without curbing the right to freedom of speech. So, how would you put it that should freedom of speech triumph over everything, or should there be measures to constrict it? And if so, what?
All right, that is a wonderful question. And for an individual as young as you are, I'm impressed, I must say. So kudos to your group for having taken out this question. Understanding is, you know, there's this term national interest of your country, and there's no definition of it. I mean, what lies in your national interest and what does not? That's a very tricky question. Efforts have been made to, put an end to it. It's an open-ended statement, but you cannot do it. So so once you say that, how do we differentiate freedom of expression and hate speech? I don't think there's any, specific, what do you say? Mm, there's no there's no such thing as any rule or set pattern or any SOP in place that can differentiate or that can separate that fine line between the two. But what you can do is, once religion is involved, you try and say that the other person is a non-Muslim, and you try and say that you should take the head of the other person, once you state anything that can jeopardize the life of another individual, that should fall in hate speech. For example, there's this politician who, in a press conference about a couple days back, named another politician and stated that his head should be cut off. That is hate speech. People talking about our honorable Chief Justice and stating that he should be, you know, he should be answerable, not answerable. They didn't use that word. They use other harsh words. That's hate speech. So, when somebody is talking about that, use the rule of law, use the courts, use the fine boundaries that are in place, the constitutionally mandated boundaries that are in place. Once you are circling in those lines, that's fine. But hate speech arises when you start to, directly target the personal aspect of another individual, when you start to say that the other person is, mm, I don't know, I'm trying to be very censored about some things because I don't want to repeat the hate speech that is over there, that the experiences that are over there, so that not to promote them. But then again, your question is absolutely right, that how do you differentiate that? It's a very tricky and fine matter. But obviously constitutionally mandated boundaries are over there, and they've been in place since long. And if they are not in place, then the authorities and some institutions who are, for instance, the FIA cybercrime wing, they need to get active on it. But again, another question arises now is, whose orders are they working on? Are they actually that unbiased enough that they'll be able to differentiate between what is what and what is what not? Or will they be following or taking orders from a specific another institution and biasedly following those orders? So this is a debate. This is a never ending debate, and it's very open ended. And sadly, as the result of these open ended options that are in place, we are here where we are. Pakistan as a country is struggling more so, not because it lacks potential, but because the institutions or the authorities haven't been able to implement the policies unbiasedly and have followed specific orders or taken orders from places where they should not have taken those orders from.
Uh, that's well put forward. When you mention that press conferences are generally a medium where other individuals and actors spread hate speech, for example, you quoted the beheading incident. Why do you think that such mediums, which are generally exclusive and it's not a matter of anyone can have a press conference, why do you think they're allowed to have such a medium?
I mean, there are policies in place. They try and not to air such information. Obviously, whenever you even state anything that's against the institutions, any specific individual, any religious authority, or any constitutional uh, institution, then there are policies in place that they are not allowed to go on air. They try and curtail that information as much as possible, and once, even if it goes on air, then they try not to spread it on social media. But then again, once you're having a press conference, in the initial days, the press conference had to go on mainstream, and from there into the servers, and then it was linked and later released. So there was that gap of 7 to 8 seconds, at times 10 seconds, where you could differentiate and stop something that was not meant for the masses to listen or hear to. Presently, everybody has got a cell phone. Everybody is present over there. And once you're having a press conference of an important individual or a celebrity or any politician for that matter, there are cell phones. Everybody has that cell phone and they've got their own Twitter accounts. So once they find something, it is it is a race to get more ratings for the channels and to get more likes and viewership for individuals. So they need to share that information, be it irrespective of the fact that it might be against the society, it might be disrupting the social fabric, and they're not bothered about that. So that is a bit selfish in context, but that is what is being happening over here. The industry, or the journalism industry for that matter, it has had to be very selfish because it has been a race for ratings. So that has hurt, obviously, the social fabric of the society. But then again, obviously, there are policies, and there have been instances and experiences where such hate speech has been controlled as well. Obviously, but it's a fight. Every day is a fight. Every other day is a fight. But the growing generations or the youth needs to understand that polarized societies rarely succeed. That such hate should not be promoted. You need to focus on progress, governance. You need to sit in parliament to discuss matters, and you need to use social media to address issues that are of human importance, and not start to bash individuals at a personal level. Nothing is supposed to be taken personally at social media specifically, because then again you start to cross the lines that are in place.